my interest in art really started my junior year at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, when I took my first art history course. The hook was set. And at that point, I just said, this is great. And it was a survey course, and then I took specialized courses. I actually minored in art history, which was a bit unusual for somebody who was in the extended finance and economics. And ever since that junior year, I stopped studying in the main library. I started studying in the art history library. I would kill time wandering the museum upstairs, and I just was taking course after course. I couldn't major in art history because it required languages. It required that a student had 2 languages, and I'm terrible with that. But as a minor, I could just, I could do the classics, I could do printmaking, I could do all these different things. Then fast forward a couple of years. So I go off to graduate school, I get a job on Wall Street. I'm making okay money, and I don't have expenses, right? No family, no wife, modest lifestyle. I'm not doing what other people are doing, which is going out to the Hamptons, buying fancy cars. So, and I have a good friend who is an art dealer who I knew from high school. And next thing I know is I'm beginning to dabble. And his interest was in, his family's interest, and his interest was in mid-century American abstraction. So that was initially the start. And in New York, there were all shows, there were all sorts of galleries. And then in 1990, boom, I'm in California. And I have a family, and I have, I'm now married to Mary, and we have more expenses, and I'm out of New York. And I'm also at a point where, it's just a little crash, but stuff I had bought was going up in value, and I could actually begin to sort of sell it and look for other stuff. And just by pure coincidence, I had a chance encounter with Harvey Jones at the Oakland Museum. They sent me over there. I come in off the street. He gives me a personalized tour. He gives me a catalog. That never happens in New York. Absolutely never happens in New York, right? That type of openness. And he's introducing me to the mid-century modernists out of California. In particular, he had just done a show on the Howard family. So it was Charles Howard this, Adeline Kent that, Robert Howard this, and blah, 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 blah. So I set my sights that way. Then, a couple years later, our youngest son is in kindergarten or first grade, and his best friend is John Bernhardt's grandson. And through that connection, all of a sudden they start, and after they go back, and John Bernhardt's widow, Bunny, had asked me to do a favor to track down a sculpture that John Bernhardt had done for the Oakland Museum and was missing. Put me back in touch with Harvey. That started a relationship, and they're saying, well, you should get interested in the assemblage. And I'm looking at assemblage and going like, what? But as I started going through it, it said, well, this is actually pretty interesting. And no one else is there. Right? It's actually a real opportunity for sort of, not a deep-pocketed collector, but someone to sort of scoop up good pieces. I mean, it's not a collection, but it's assembly of assemblages. That's a fair thing to say. And so that, and I would be doing things to be able to afford things. For example, this piece here, which was I love this artist, but to get this piece, I actually had to trade a far more valuable piece to get it because it was controlled by one person. But I actually liked this piece far better. When I read, the book and I read about George, I see a lot of parallels. When you spend a lot of effort buying stuff, you want to make sure they find a good home. And also, there's a debt, at least I feel I have, to schools. And it's I wouldn't be there if I didn't take those courses, and it's that simple. And the last thing is, I really don't like selling things. I don't like the artwork. I don't like how things churn and go away. And I think it diminishes diminishes things. And so a couple of years ago, first started with Adeline Kent and the Berkeley Museum. We started gifting pieces, and that started a trend. And we really were focused on university museums. What was wonderful about the phone call that I got from Michael Duncan, who put me in touch with Bolton, was, and this is again another memory, I'm going to just diverge here. There's a piece back there called God's Pinball Machine, and I wanted to buy it. And I couldn't buy it because Toby Moss, the dealer, told me the Eccles had bought it. And I was a little unsure of myself. And I go, yeah, sure, the Eccles. I didn't know what the Eccles was. And all I remember, walking out of the gallery going, who are those guys? And that was 20 years ago. And over time, I began to get familiar with it. This is not really a collection. These are pieces that need to fit in someone else's collection. I can't think of another venue that has this museum's depth in terms of this period. And, so it just fit. And so in one sense, it's a little odd for someone from the East Coast and living in Oakland, California, to be coming to Logan, Utah to be donating art. On the other side, it makes total sense. It's time to try to find, permanent homes, permanent places for your art, for those pieces that it's worthy to find a permanent piece for. A lot of this stuff, there's stuff that no one knows who he is, or very few people know who he is. Oakland Museum has 2 wonderful pieces up by Newton Merrill, but he's an unknown. And you guys had such a head start, and obviously a really good sense of collecting things well before the mainstream found them.